Hey all, shorter war here. This is actually a rematch. We have faced this particular alliance before as our second war this season. I can go ahead and link that video in the description. We won by a decent margin last time, but at the same time, there are a lot of rank 3s here, and everybody was rusty at the start of this particular season, right? So we still didn't want to come into this cocky because that's how you pile up a bunch of dumb deaths and end up losing winnable wars, right? Off the bat here, there's no particular reason I'm using Reed for this fight, honestly. The main thing is simply that there was no reason not to use Reed for this fight, and so I might as well use this to charge him up a little bit and get some extra pre-fights. Now, you saw me throw on that power start. That does not work on power struggle. This fight does end up being short enough that I hold on to it, so it wasn't a waste, but I'm not going to pretend that that was some kind of master plan. Just totally slipped my mind. I was hoping it would work for both of them, though. Anyway, same thing here as normal. We play the node, but we don't worry about the node quite as much because after that first special, you should pretty much never worry about them getting a bar of power at a bad time. You should pretty much always be able to deal with it. You just want to make sure that you don't like heavy and that puts them over a bar and then you're not ready for it. If you heavy to take them over a bar and then block, they will often hold on to it, and then you can usually deal with things that way. But basically just be mindful of your combos, be mindful of how much power you're giving them, which is why I didn't activate the suppression pre-fight, and this is pretty simple. Silver Centurion is still new. I'm pretty comfortable with his special 1 evade, but all the same, I went and I used my like rank 3 4-star Reed in a duel and just baited the special 1 over and over again because I was like, if anything goes wrong, I'm gonna miss it somewhere. Yep, there it is. I just dodged slightly early, got tagged by that. Thankfully, the fight was already almost over. I hadn't let Furies build up. Not the end of the world. I'm not planning on using Reed again, and I got his pre-fights. Only 6, not ideal. See there, I checked to make sure the power start is still good, and I decided to not use these because I have much harder fights coming up later, and I'd rather have the pre-fights there and just deal with this Mysterio. I've fought Mysterio with Torch a couple times so far. Same basic principle. We're going to block the first special 1 here. You could Dex out of it and take less block damage, but then you'd probably only get 1 or 2 smolders instead of 3. And I prefer to have my temperature up because on the because it means that the incinerates last longer, and on the off chance that I push him to his second special, I want to make sure that I can't miss, and the safest way to do that is to have your temperature up. I have taken a little bit of reflected damage here, and that's just because this is brute force. His reflection gas doesn't last that long, but I think it is worth going ahead and tagging in once, resetting the timer, and then waiting for the reflection gas to fall off. See, there you go. Brute force comes back basically right in time for us to take it off. Not a lot of damage. Most of the damage in this has been a combination of the few times that we've gotten damage reflected back, because that just happens, but then the fact that Mysterio also has block penetration natively in his kit. Combine that with Torch's completely standard block proficiency, you're going to take a bit. So here's these pre-fights. This is Maw on Spite, and also Rise to Power. Now, I feel like I can handle Spite. The Rise to Power part, that could get out of control, because you don't necessarily want to dance away from Maw to try and avoid him hitting you, and therefore control Rise to Power, because if you do that, then you might trigger Spite. And if you trigger Spite by dexing, and that gives Ma a bar of power, then he'll throw his special, nullify your precision, and now you're taking degen. So my whole strategy on this particular fight was be boosted high enough and block enough that I was just hoping to win this without ever needing to knock him down. I think I do... Or sorry, without needing to knock him down much. Yeah, I think I use the special there because that allows me to knock him down while creating space, and therefore I don't have to dex away from him and trigger Spite or any of that. I was able to wait out the Rise to Power timer, and then from there it's super easy. I do think that was the best place to use my pre-fight, because while that looked really easy, if it had gone on much longer and I had to start baiting, it could have gotten a little uglier. Better to get that out of the way. But against Darkhawk, I was basically treating this as a mini Abyss fight. I've soloed the Abyss Darkhawk many, many times with Torch. And the basic way you do it is that you don't use your pre-fight, even if you have it, because you want those active Incinerate debuffs to also trigger Despair, and basically what you do is you push to the Special 2 and try and get him to throw that Special 2 while he's in shield mode, so he switches modes and heals, and then once he's in stealth mode from throwing the Special 2, you knock him down again with the heavy, and that puts him back in shield mode, he switches again, and with Torch, hopefully you're set up such that you're reversing the healing. So we blocked a Special 1 to make sure that we had some smolders and we wouldn't miss, and then we did exactly that. We baited the Special 2, it reversed his healing, we hit into him to get a few more Incinerates up to get that healing even lower, then we knocked him back down, did a good amount of damage. I was hoping that he'd crossed enough bars of power that with Aspect of Evolution this would take him to a Special 2, and it did. However, it seems that the AI kind of wanted to wait out that Power Sting or something, and I should have parried right there. I missed the parry, and because of that I lose the pre-fights. So at this point he could go red, and that would be unpleasant, but I did use the invulnerability, and there, we're able to reverse his healing one more time. I don't think we're going to need to do it again. I think the Incinerates just do our work from us here. Oh, I could be wrong. Okay, so we hit into him and reverse it and just do damage one more time. Pretty simple fight. You do take some damage because Aspect of Evolution is going to increase Darkhawk's block proficiency. Increase Darkhawk's block penetration. So it's kind of the similar problem to Mysterio, and you end up blocking a lot of hits with Maw. This is one of those reasons why I think it's very important to have multiple torches in a battle group, because it's just a massive potion drain to be taking everyone he's good for with one torch every time. And we did have another torch on the field for this one. So then we have Mr. Fantastic here. I have not seen Reed on this node in quite a long time. And I think the biggest reason is because the debuffs he places on the attacker, them being free willpower, kind of takes away the pressure of brute force. Because you see, brute force does outweigh one debuff at a time, but I think 2 at least holds us even if we're not healing from it. And so there's, for somebody like Killmonger, or anyone who can turn off Reed's evade, Mole Man would be pretty good here as well. No, actually, Mole Man would eventually go into Frenzy. I suppose you could take advantage of his bug, but Killmonger's definitely better for this one. But basically, if you don't have to worry about the evade for whatever reason, then there's no reason to ever finish this fight below 100% health. You'll notice that I am gaining power when he throws his special, because him putting those debuffs on me triggers Killmonger's ability where he gains extra power. And so the one danger to this is that if I throw a Special 2 and then get pushed to another Special 2, then I could permanently weaken my Special 2s by throwing 2 in a row. But basically, just as long as you spend any time paying attention to your power bar and alternating your specials, there's not much to that. So, like I said, this was a pretty simple war, but I think this was what needed to happen. This was where these champs needed to be. Torch answered 3 potentially very difficult fights, and while that Killmonger fight was extremely easy for him, it could have been ugly with someone else. That's kind of the whole thing that we've been going for. I mean, that's what everyone goes for. But we are doing our best to, especially with these changes to timing, really try and directly counter the nodes as much as we can and not kind of rely on the old standbys. I think we've assigned maybe 2 Quakes all season, and I don't think we've assigned Corvus. We have still used Magic and Ghost. I mean, some of the standbys are standbys for a reason, and I'm pretty sure, used an Archangel every single war. But you don't want to be married to them as though they're the only option for a lot of this stuff, which can be done more safely with other options. And I think the reason that our BG has been doing so well is because that's the approach we've taken. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and link Campo's channel in the description again. He's been helping a lot with the planning in the BG this season, and he has been our ghoster a few times. There's been some great gameplay over on his channel. Definitely recommend you check that out for another look at our BG from another side. We did end up dying twice this particular war as a BG. Not our best, but there were a couple things in the plan where we're like, that's not optimal, hope it goes well. And sometimes when you end up making those calls, it doesn't, right? So overall, we can deal with that. We ended up dying 4 times as an alliance, which I'm pretty happy with. That's competitive with a lot of the bigger alliances, just not the ones at the very top, but we're not really gunning for them. And our opponents cut their deaths quite a bit to actually the exact number of times we died in the first war against them. So really glad that we have also been stepping it up, because this would have been an easy loss if we just aimed for that number like last time. Anyway, hope y'all enjoyed this one. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, or share it around. I really appreciate when that happens. It's a great feeling seeing your videos in the wild, right? But until next time, take care. I'll see you then.